What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Terminal Topics Podcast. I'm your host, Pat Deneen, and this is my preview for tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw taking place. We have two semifinal matchups to look forward to for the King of the Ring tournament and the Queen of the Ring tournament. Who from Monday Night Raw is going to this Saturday's King of the Ring, Queen of the Ring PLE in those finals? We have Lyra Valkyria going one-on-one with Io Sky for the women, and for the men, we have main event Jey Uso going up against the Ring General Gunther. Can Jey Uso get redemption from February when he lost to Gunther for that Intercontinental Championship opportunity? That was to no fault of his own for losing that match. Yet again, his brother Jimmy Uso interfered in that one, just as he did previously in the fall when him and Cody were trying to regain those tag titles. And just like he did to Jey the very first time, back in August at SummerSlam, when Jey was trying to dethrone Roman and Jimmy first interfered. So can Jey get it done? I'm going to let you know who I see coming out of the Queen of the Ring for Monday Night Raw, for the King of the Ring for Monday Night Raw, and see who is going to Saudi Arabia on Saturday. So I found it very interesting. This was earlier in the week, once we found out that we were getting Lyra Valkyria versus Io Sky in these women's semifinals for Monday Night Raw. And there was a tweet from Lyra Valkyria. This was dated September 27th, 2017. Now, as far as I'm concerned, Lyra was not with WWE at this point in time. I don't even believe she was signed to the Performance Center or NXT, NXT UK, etc. Now, Io, at this point in time, she may have been signed to WWE. I'm not quite sure. Maybe in NXT or maybe showcased in the Mae Young Classic. This very well may have what Lyra was alluding to when she tweeted out the words Io Shirai. Obviously, that's the name Io went by in NXT. Before making her way to the main roster, SummerSlam 2022, coming up as Io Sky, one of the three members of Damage Control. And so Io Sky retweeted that September 27th, 2017 tweet that Lyra put out with two eyeball emojis. And so obviously Lyra knows how good Io is, obviously seems to admire her work at one point in time, and I'm sure she does to this very day. And this is going to be an outstanding match. I mean, to be quite honest with you guys, I don't know how this is going to go. I don't think anything is clear cut for the men or the women, and that's not a bad thing. It's definitely not easy to see what's going to happen here. I mean, could we see Io Sky going up against Nia Jax this Saturday? Could it be Io Sky versus Bianca Belair? You know, they had a great match last May at Backlash, as I alluded to in previous episodes, and they had a fantastic match in Puerto Rico. Could we see Lyra Valkyria versus Nia Jax? Or, the fourth and final option, could we see Lyra Valkyria go one-on-one with Bianca Belair? As far as Monday Night Raw is concerned, Queen of the Ring tonight, who do I see coming out of the Lyra-Io match? I want to go with Io, right? I want to go with Io, that's for sure. Getting the win, maybe it's selfishly because of the match I want to see take place this Saturday. I want that Io and Bianca rematch. So obviously I'm picking Bianca to come out of SmackDown as it stands, but I just as easily could see it going the other way too. I could see Lyra Valkyria squeaking by Io, obviously a formidable opponent, and Io being a recent WWE Women's Champion. Lyra's no slouch. She's the former NXT Women's Champion. They were both dethroned WrestleMania weekend, but that's nor here nor there. And so I could see them squeaking Lyra past Io, but again, I want Io versus Bianca. And I see one of two things happening. If Io advances, then I think Bianca advances for SmackDown. However, if Lyra advances on Monday Night Raw, then I think that's pretty telling that Nia Jax is going to make it out of the SmackDown side of things this Friday. Because I see it Io versus Bianca or Lyra versus Nia. I don't see it any other way. I don't see the potential of it being Io versus Nia. I don't see it being Lyra versus Bianca. I don't see those matches happening. So again, it's either Io or Bianca, Lyra, Nia. Again, I want Io versus Bianca, but I'm gonna go with Lyra Valkyria because I think they're gonna put her in the position of being in this final against the likes of a Nia Jax, and that's what I'm thinking. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I hope I'm wrong. Now, as far as the men are concerned for Monday Night Raw, again, we have main event Jey Uso going up against Gunther. And can Jey Uso get redemption from his loss in February for that Intercontinental Championship? Now, unfortunately, Here, the Intercontinental Championship is not on the line, being that Gunther was dethroned at WrestleMania by Sami Zayn. However, there are some high stakes still. This is to get to the finals of the King of the Ring in Saudi Arabia this Saturday. Very tricky situation here, too. For a very long time, for weeks on end, I thought this was not only Gunther's for the taking for Monday Night Raw. I pretty much had Gunther winning this whole entire tournament. That's how I saw things. I thought it was appropriate, being his whole position in WWE, how he's presented with Imperium, and I thought it would just be right for him to win his tournament, this King of the Ring tournament here, regain his momentum after that WrestleMania loss, and eventually be well on his way to becoming a world champion one day. But it's tricky, because the way WWE has been booking things lately in this tournament, namely on the SmackDown side of things, with Tama Tonga, right? Tama Tonga, not only did he make it past the first round, but he made it past the second round this past week against LA Knight. The first round, he beat Angelo Dawkins, who replaced Bobby Lashley. And the second round, he beat LA Knight. Now, granted, both times, much like the Bloodline always has, old Bloodline, new Bloodline, same old song and dance. There's always distractions. Solo Sikoa, his brother, Tonga Loa, Paul Heyman, they're all out there helping in one way or another, interfering in the match. And so, simply put, regardless how you slice it, Tama Tonga is finding a way to get the victory here. So if they're going to, we won't find out obviously till Friday, and we're going to pretty much have a good idea tonight, much like the women. Whoever comes out of Monday Night Raw, we're going to have a good inclination of who's coming out of SmackDown. Simply put, if Jey Uso wins tonight, we're going to see Jey Uso versus Tama Tonga. There's no way it's going to be Jey Uso versus Randy Orton. That's not fun. They squashed their beef many months ago, being on the same side of things in that War Games match back in November at Survivor Series. So Jey Uso, Randy Orton, there's no heat there. Doesn't make sense. Now, if you have Jey Uso versus Tama Tonga, incredibly intriguing. Now, is it something I want to see the two go head-to-head in some way? And is this the only way we can get them at this point in time, being that Jey's on Raw and Tama Tonga's on SmackDown? Yeah, sure, I get that. I truly understand that. However, I hate the fact that they have to use the King of the Ring tournament, the prestige of it all, just to get to this Bloodline storyline. Again, it's a catch-22. It's how else are you going to necessarily get to it right now without Roman here, without Jimmy here, and so on. But I hate the fact that they have to use this prestigious tournament that I've been a huge fan of since I was a little kid during the Golden Era, to bring back the tournament essentially just for this. So I'm not crazy about Jey Uso versus Tama Tonga in the King of the Ring. Will it be fun? Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's not really interesting from the standpoint of them having a one-on-one match, a singles match on a pay-per-view. I don't think that is interesting at all. I think the story behind it is incredibly intriguing, but that's pretty much that. That's where I'll leave it. So I guess I got to make my prediction at this point in time, right? Who do I have winning? And the other thing is, Jey Uso wasn't even initially slated to be in this tournament, right? He, last minute, literally the day of, 2 weeks ago on Raw, we found out via Adam Pearce that Jey Uso was going to replace the injured Drew McIntyre. Now, whether that's storyline or not is nor here nor there. Main event, Jey Uso was inserted into that spot, won the first round matchup, defeated Ilya Dragunov last week, and here he is in the semifinals against Gunther. Much like I felt about this last one for the women, I want to see Io advance. I feel like Lyra's going to advance. And I'm going to say the same thing here. Much like I want Gunther to advance, how much he appreciates and respects pro wrestling, and he calls the mat sacred as Ludwig Kaiser and Imperium do, and I thought it would be, again, appropriate for him to be hailed as King of the Ring. I just as easily could see Jey Uso going over tonight. Again, much like the other match, the women's match. I don't want it. I don't want Lyra. I don't want Jey to win, but I see it happening. So I'm going to go with Jey Uso finding a way to get a huge win back-to-back weeks over Ilya Dragunov, over Gunther, making his way to the King of the Ring final this Saturday in Saudi Arabia, because I think that's where they're headed. And if Jey wins, again, if Jey wins, it's a sure shot that Tama Tonga is winning this Friday on SmackDown. 0% chance that Randy will win. Jey, Randy, not intriguing at all. Jey, Tama Tonga, again, from a storyline standpoint, not from a wrestling match standpoint. Storyline-wise, new Bloodline versus old Bloodline, I get it. That's what we'll be seeing. So those are my predictions for the semifinals of the King of the Ring tournament, but essentially it's the final for Monday Night Raw for the Queen of the Ring and the King of the Ring. Now, in addition to those two great matches we have to look forward to for King and Queen of the Ring tonight, we also have Intercontinental Champion Sami Zayn going one-on-one with Chad Gable. They'll also meet again this Saturday in a triple threat match for Sami's Intercontinental Championship. It'll be Sami, Chad Gable, and of course Big Bronson Reed. Tonight is a non-title match, I believe. And so that should be fun. Sami Zayn, Chad Gable. Would not be surprised if Chad gets the win tonight somehow, some way, because I do think Sami will retain this Saturday in Saudi Arabia. As far as King of the Ring's concerned, again, we have the King of the Ring tournament final, Queen of the Ring tournament final. We have the match I just mentioned, the triple threat for the IC title. And the other two matches, it looks like they're going to stick to 5 matches for this card. We have a singles match for the Women's World Championship. Of course, champion Becky Lynch going one-on-one with Liv Morgan, which is, I don't know, I'm pretty focused on this one. We could easily see Becky Lynch drop the title to Liv here. I'm thinking that's what might happen. I don't want to see that happen necessarily. I'm hoping for a longer run for Becky. It hasn't even been a full month yet, give or take. So I'm hoping Becky retains, but I could see her drop. And then whenever Rhea's back, lead to the whole Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley storyline. They have a feud there. I mean, Rhea put Liv out, then Liv put Rhea out as far as injuries were concerned. So that's going to be incredibly interesting. And the fifth and final matchup here, we have a singles match for the undisputed WWE Championship. As we found out this past Friday on SmackDown, it will not include Logan Paul's United States Championship. Obviously, SummerSlam's in Cleveland, his hometown. He's walking in as champ, probably going to lose to the likes of an LA Knight. But at minimum, he'll be walking in to SummerSlam this August with that title. And so Cody Rhodes, of course, should get this victory over Logan Paul. He ain't losing, that's for sure. And so that's pretty much that as far as the 5-match card is concerned for King and Queen of the Ring this Saturday. Now, as far as other news and notes I want to look at, there was a lot of birthdays this past weekend. By the way, shout out to one of the greatest big men to ever do it. Andre the Giant would have been 78 this past Sunday. So shout out to Andre. There was also a couple other notables. I know they're in AEW, but he's a former WWE superstar, and Aleister Black. Malachi Black celebrated a birthday, as well as AEW superstar Kip Sabian. And today, the Road Dogg Jesse James turns 55 years old, and Akam of AOP are part of the Final Testament with Karrion Kross and company. He turns 31 years old as well. So happy birthday to all those that I just mentioned. Let's see here. Now, let's talk a little bit about some other historic, monumental news that took place. Oh, more so the anniversary of it this past Sunday. There was a lot. I couldn't keep up, quite honestly. It said this past Sunday, May 19th, 28 years ago today, the Clique sent Kevin Nash and Scott Hall off to WCW with a group hug that changed the course of WWE's future. From the rise of Steve Austin to the fate of the ratings war, the curtain call, as we all know it to be, is one of the biggest butterfly effects in the history of wrestling. This is thanks courtesy to Sportskeeda, who posted this on their social media. May 19th, 1996. What a monumental moment. Again, social media was not really around, and definitely nothing like it is today. And so we probably never would have known had this fan not recorded the video footage. Only those in attendance would have saw this, and that would have been that. This was a big no-no, obviously. Ric Flair, many expressed how big of a deal this was. You don't do this. You don't break kayfabe, especially during a show, where even if the match ended, you don't do that. But they were all so tight. Again, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Shawn Michaels, Triple H. He wasn't pictured here, obviously, but even Sean Waltman, 123 Kid, X-Pac, 6, whatever you know him as. And so that was pretty big deal. Another anniversary this past Sunday. This was 11 years ago that the Shield were all crowned champions at this point in time. Every member finished Extreme Rules 2013 with their very first championship on the main roster. Of course, Dean Ambrose, what became the United States champion, now Jon Moxley. In AEW, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins became the tag team champions. I mean, what careers all three of them have had, really, in WWE. Obviously, for Moxley, even outside of WWE the past 5 years. In AEW, in New Japan, how many titles he's accumulated as well. So, I mean, the run Roman was on the last 4 years, namely as champion. Seth Rollins even, kudos to him, the workhorse, always finding a way to stay in the thick of things, title or not, whether he's the U.S. champion, the World Heavyweight champion. defending on a weekly basis, open challenges, making it happen all the time. So I have immense amount of respect for all three of these guys and what they've done collectively for the wrestling business. All-time greats, all future Hall of Famers. I can't say enough good things about them. Last but not least, as far as that date, May 19th is concerned, right? We flash back to 96 for the curtain call. The Shield all winning in 2013 at Extreme Rules. And how about this? It's been 5 years, May 19th, 2019. I believe this took place in Connecticut. Bayley became the Women's Money in the Bank winner. Cashed in successfully later that night against Charlotte Flair to become SmackDown Women's Champion. Also, if you remember, everybody was caught off guard, definitely by surprise. Brock Lesnar ended up winning the men's Money in the Bank ladder match at the very end. I remember a few of the guys that were involved. Mustafa Ali, Finn Balor, Randy Orton, to name a few. And everybody was kind of beat and broken and battered on the outside in the ring. Brock's music hit out of nowhere. He ends up coming in, replacing the injured Sami Zayn and getting the briefcase. I believe it was turned into a boombox, right? He was holding it over his shoulder. And so that was definitely a very surprising moment in time too. So I just couldn't believe how many flashback moments we were getting on this date, May 19th, of so many intriguing things over the past several years in pro wrestling, namely WWE. Now, something I want to mention that Bayley tweeted this past Friday on SmackDown, and it's caused a lot of noise this past weekend, is Bayley tweeting early Friday night that she writes, "This hashtag Queen of the Ring tournament is calling for an Evolution 2. Now, I don't know what you guys collectively thought about Evolution back in October of 2018 at the Nassau Coliseum. I believe it took place. A wide array of matches we saw from superstars, past, present, and future. I thought overall it was very good. I enjoyed it. I don't know if it's something they should necessarily do annually. I'm not opposed to it. But even if they did it every couple of years to add that intrigue and interest, and maybe every 2 years or 3 years, they say, hey, we're doing Evolution again. It's something to look forward to over time. And I think, I know that they're definitely able to pull that off again. It's going on 6 years since the last one we had. And there's plenty of women in NXT that are hungry on Monday Night Raw, on Friday Night SmackDown. Could easily pull it off, especially if I forget how many matches took place on that card. Remember, there was a Battle Royale. Several other matches that took place. I believe Ronda Rousey, Nikki Bella main evented. Charlotte and Becky had a match, and so on. Let's just say there was 8 or 9 matches. The way Triple H books, he likes to go with the less is more, and I'm okay with that. So I don't see Triple H doing more than 6 or 7 matches on this type of show. I mean, shoot, we're only getting 5 this Saturday, King and Queen of the Ring, and I'm fine with that. So 6, 7 matches, easily. Could get a ton of talent on that show. And I would really look forward to it. So I am 1,000% in agreement with Bayley. Let's get an Evolution 2, even if it's not in 2024. I know we're almost halfway through the year. Everything has to be booked in advance and so on. But maybe 2025. By then it's 6.5, 7 years since the last one, which time is just absolutely flying. I remember that Bianca Belair was in attendance. I remember she was actually wearing a pink suit specifically because I remember she took a ton of pictures with the girls, of course, before, during, and after the show. And I was thinking to myself, man, it would have been great to have her on this card. She was just really gaining her footing and her momentum in NXT at this point in time. This was about a year and a half before she was brought to the main roster, Monday Night Raw, early on in the pandemic, and so on. But yeah, a lot of good memories from the show. As a matter of fact, I just pulled up the card. It was an 8-match card that took place, Evolution, October of 2018. And we got to see Rhea Ripley defeat Dakota Kai. This was a singles match for the NXT UK Women's Championship. We also got to see a tag team match where Trish Stratus and Lita defeated the duo of Mickie James and Alicia Fox. Alexa Bliss was ringside. I remember it was supposed to be Mickie James and Alexa Bliss, but Alexa was not cleared. I believe she was dealing with concussions at the time, and so Alicia Fox replaced Alexa Bliss for that one. 20-woman Battle Royale for the Women's Championship match. Opportunity, Nia Jax by last eliminating Ember Moon, now known as Athena. She's on a 1.5-year run as Ring of Honor Women's Champion. Good for her. We got to see the culmination of the 2018 Mae Young Classic Tournament Finals, where we see here Toni Storm defeated Io Shirai by pinfall. It's funny, I was just talking about that at the top of the show, where Lyra had tweeted out the name Io Shirai. And I remember that, I believe that this was the second and final Mae Young Classic tournament, because I believe in the first one in 2017, we got to see Kairi Sane defeat the Queen of Spades, Shayna Baszler, to win that first ever Mae Young Classic. So I believe it was during that first tournament, long story short, is when Lyra was referencing Io Sky or Io Shirai. We had a 6-woman tag team match. Sasha Banks, Bayley, and Natalya defeated the Riot Squad, Ruby Riott, Liv Morgan, and Sarah Logan. And 6th match here, Shayna Baszler, speaking of which, defeated Kairi Sane by submission. So how funny is that? She finally got her lick back on Kairi from the year prior, defending her NXT Women's Championship successfully. Again, the year prior, Kairi had the upper hand, defeating Shayna in the finals of that tournament. And then, of course, as I mentioned, Becky Lynch defeated Charlotte Flair, and we got to see Rowdy Ronda Rousey, defeat Nikki Bella by submission. So again, overall, I was okay with that show. I enjoyed it a lot. I was happy for the women of WWE. Women's wrestling in general gave them a real boost in confidence and motivation, giving them the showcase that they deserve. So again, simply put, I would love to see in 2025 the women of WWE get an opportunity for evolution and of Evolution 2. And so before I get out of here, I want to know what you guys think about this. This is a graphic that caught my attention before I got on here. And this is a graphic that says Survivor Series War Games. Again, this is just a potential happening on Monday Night Raw. Would you guys be interested in seeing, if Damage Control is still a thing in a few months, come November, the likes of Dakota Kai, Io Sky, Asuka, and Kairi Sane going up against the team of Becky Lynch, Lyra Valkyria, Alba Fire, and Isla Dawn? Is that something that would intrigue you? I know it's something that I would enjoy for a variety of reasons. Not only is Damage Control a fantastic stable that, you know, even though they've had this new and improved look the last several months, booting Bayley out, adding the Kabuki Warriors and Asuka and Kairi Sane, I do think it's helped elevate Dakota to a point, at least from a, standpoint of being a leader. She's kind of like the unspoken leader of the group, in my opinion, at least as far as taking control of the mic and all that. But I really feel like this group has not been showcased fully. Asuka's held her own. Io, I would like to see her have a second World Championship run, Women's Championship run on her own, eventually down the line. I don't want to say the group held her back, but I think Io is better in singles. I know I'm getting a little bit off topic here, but Kairi Sane is the last one here who I don't think has really gotten the necessary shine. She always seems to be the one who is, taking the pinfall or so on. So I think seeing this group of Damage Control really dominate in a War Games match, and I think Io has been in damn near almost all the War Games match, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2, right? The women have had 5 or 6 at this point, and she's usually up there doing some crazy spot from the top. So again, that's another reason I like to see Damage Control in this match. And then, of course, Becky's been in at least 1, maybe 2 War Games matches. She's done fantastic in those kinds of things. You know, she could battle Lyra as well. And last but certainly not least, I think this would be a great way to showcase on the main roster the likes of Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. We really haven't seen them do much in the last year. When they were on SmackDown, the only thing I remember is them losing to Ronda and Shayna when they merged those women's titles, them coming up from NXT as champions. Of course, Ronda and Shayna merged them. They became the overall WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, which needed to happen. NXT Women's Division did not need their own set of tag titles because, quite honestly, there's not enough full-time women's tag teams across the board. Raw, SmackDown, NXT, you name it. So that made sense. But outside of that, I'm a little sad to see that they haven't been used. Certainly not in singles, definitely not in tag teams. So I think a match like this would really establish their dominance on the main roster, showing people who are unfamiliar with them what they are capable of. Because just as good as they are as a tag team, they're even better, in my opinion, in singles. Big fan of Alba Fire. Kaylee Ray, right? She formerly went by an NXT UK, the longest reigning, I want to say, NXT UK Women's Champion, beating the records of Rhea Ripley and Toni Storm and whoever else held that title over there. So something I'd like to see. Graphic definitely caught my attention. I don't think it's necessarily going to happen, but I would not be opposed to seeing this matchup. So that just about does it for me here, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you, as always, for tuning in to the Turnbuckle Topics podcast. I am your host, Pat Deneen. Enjoy Monday Night Raw. And I'll catch you on the flip side of things, reviewing Monday Night Raw, and of course, who's going to the finals for Monday Night Raw for the King of the Ring and the Queen of the Ring tournament. I'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening.